Hey, it's been real tough to avoid the near round-the-clock attack ads between Fort Bend Sheriff Troy Nehls and Shree Kulkarni running for Congress in the 22nd Congressional District. Kulkarni came close to beating Congressman Pete Olson 2 years ago. What's his challenge against Sheriff Nehls? Republicans have been smarting, trying to make sure that they keep that position. Let's talk to you guys about that. 22nd has become a lightning rod of sorts. What kind of analysis do you have about what's going on there? Brandon, you go first on this one.
Well, I think Kulkarni's run a good campaign. I mean, he's outspent and outraised Troy Nehls, but it's gotten pretty nasty, and nasty campaigns are unpredictable. We know that obviously it's going to reduce the size of the electorate. People simply kind of tune out of the process, but it does enhance the kind of polarizing partisan output. So you're going to see definitely a base versus base election there. This is a district where Democrats have really attempted to make big moves. This is a county that's changing rapidly in terms of race, and demographics tend to favor the Democrats, but it's going to be really a turnout game. And at that point, it's a bit of a jump ball since there's a lot of moving parts.
Mark, Troy has been a popular Fort Bend County sheriff. So I haven't seen much in debates. I haven't seen much in real policy going on here. Do you suspect that there's a philosophy here that maybe you don't get into any details and maybe you just ride out on your popularity? What's going on with that, do you think?
Well, neither candidate, neither Kulkarni nor Nehls, has really shown a great deal of desire to interact with the media, and they've been running sort of their own type of campaigns. Nehls is as you mentioned, a real known quantity in Fort Bend County. He's been sheriff for 8 years and was a constable before that. And Fort Bend County represents about 2/3 of voters in Congressional District 22. So Nehls is banking on that long-standing support, as well as a robust advertising campaign, although not at the level of Kulkarni's, to sort of push him over the top. Kulkarni is, though, effectively relying on Donald Trump to pull the entire Republican ticket down in Fort Bend County. As Brandon mentioned, it's one of the more diverse districts in the state, with a large Indian American, Asian American, Latino, African American, and Anglo population. And the demographics are working against Republicans, especially with Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, who's just he's a drag on Republicans across the entire state, but he's an especially strong drag in CD 22.
Let's talk about the 7th, because the 7th is a district Republicans are really upset about after Culberson was defeated. What do you make of that? Because it looks like that Republicans did what they duplicated what they did in California. They got a candidate who was like a central casting, African-American, West Point, who won in California, and they're trying to do the same thing here in Wesley Hunt. Mark, what do you make of that one, and is that as close as one might think it could be?
Well, that was one of the 2 seats that Democrats flipped back in 2018, and it's probably the most vulnerable Democratic seat here in Texas. So if Texas Republicans are going to take 1 seat back, it's going to be CD7. As you mentioned, Wesley Hunt is a very strong candidate. He's probably about as good as the Republicans could have hoped for. The difficulty he's facing is that Lizzie Fletcher herself is a very strong candidate, fits the profile of the district very well, has been a strong advocate for it. I think her only weak link is, or sort of her weak spot or Achilles heel, is the fact that she represents the core of the energy industry, the oil and natural gas industry in Texas. And while she is very supportive of the energy industry, she belongs to a party, the Democratic Party, which probably would like to see the oil and natural gas industry disappear at some point over the next 20 or 30 years, which isn't good if you work in the oil and natural gas industry, which a large number of residents in CD7 do.
Brandon, your take on that?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of attempts by outside groups to try to tie Lizzie Fletcher to what they purport to be a Democratic desire to ban fracking, and that's bad news for her. But I don't see that they've been able to lay like a really clean shot on her, and she's been able to, I think, thread the needle politically to be able to sort of moderate in a district that really is a fairly moderate district. Looking at the output of where voters have already voted in that district and where they've voted in past primaries, it's going to be a mixed bag. I mean, there's a bunch of red and there's a bunch of blue. So it's going to be a really competitive race, maybe one of the most that we see in the state.
So we got more to talk about this week. We have Newsmakers Extra we're going to do. You guys are contented to come on and talk more with me because I'm a geek about this stuff, and I love it, and I hope that the viewers do as well. Before I go, though, what do you think is going to be the biggest surprise to come out of this upcoming election day, either local or national? What do you think it is? Mark?
If I had to guess, I would say a pretty landslide Biden victory over Trump. That is that the dam will effectively break, and that Trump, on election night, we won't have fears of Donald Trump contesting the results or not leaving office, because the result is going to be so clear-cut against him. And if that occurs, we'll also see Republicans not only take control of the Senate, but take control of the U.S. Senate by a substantial amount, say 53 or 54, such that we'll be looking at an all-blue government for at least the next 2 years in Washington.
Mm-hmm. All right, Brandon?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans looking for work. I mean, there are places that the Democrats will be competitive in that they haven't been competitive in for a long time. Alaska, the Senate race there, potentially Iowa is going to flip. Maine could flip. Susan Collins could be out of there. So nationally, like Mark said, this is going to be a very different place. And I think even here in Texas, you could see the Texas Democrats take back the Texas House. They've got to flip 9 seats to make that work. And there are districts where they're really competitive and maybe a couple of surprises along the way. So I think, like Mark said, we're going to see a completely new government in both in Washington and in Austin.
Wow. Okay, you guys realize this is on tape and it can be, can be used later on, right? Okay. All right. Thank you. We're going to continue this conversation. In fact, you talked about the House, the State House, possibly even. We're going to talk about that in our Newsmakers Extra as well. And that's on click2houston.com. Doctors Mark Jones, Brandon Rottinghouse, thank you. We'll continue online on Houston Newsmakers Extra. But next here, the effort to help those facing eviction.